Morning, everybody. This is Pete Lackey here sharing a short video on why Cheryl and I will be voting no and confirming David Platt as our pastor to replace Lon Solomon at McLean Bible Church. I have two issues I shared with the elders, and I had it confirmed, unbeknownst to them in a conversation with them, that these two things actually are true. My concerns are valid, so I want to share with them with you. Number one, the celebrity of the person was put above the integrity of the process. That should never be the case, to then pick someone where we kind of create this fan base around them. In fact, this is to take advantage of 1 Corinthians 1:12. You see this in the church. Actually, 1 Corinthians 1 is dealing with unity in the church, and you see that some of the church members say, well, I follow Paul, and I follow Cephas, I follow Apollos. And Paul goes, wait a minute, none of us are nothing. It's about Christ. So following people in this cult of personality always causes trouble. Look here in our political realm, right? You have people who are fanboys or fangirls, if you will, of President Obama, who are battling people who are fanboys and fangirls of President Trump. I bring that up just to show that the cult of personality is pretty powerful. And then you have people like myself and those of us who stand on principles, and we use that same measuring rod for other people, and that's what we're actually called to do. So I wanted to share with you, that's number one. Number two, David does not agree with our doctrine. Now, this is a fact. Now, this is important. Our doctrine is what causes unity in the local body. So I should know, since I wrote What We Teach with one of our former elders, that teaches church doctrine. So it feels weird to say, but in essence, I'm a resident expert on our doctrine. I have to be. I had to train teachers and leaders, people who are in our Future Leaders program, other pastors. I've taught it at the church many times, and some of you have been in that class. So our church doctrine, one of the things we point out is that it's critical because this is what creates unity in a local body. As you can see, it's not that big. This is what makes us unique body of Christ. There are no secondary issues when it comes to our church doctrine, which creates unity. For example, I have a local Assembly of God church here, brothers in the Lord. Speaking in tongues is a secondary issue in the capital C Church Universal. But in the church local, it's not a secondary issue because it creates unity. That's why they exist, is because of that expressing that gift. So if they're looking for a new pastor and I went and said, hey, I'm looking at taking this job, but hey, listen, that speaking in tongues is a secondary issue, we'll just agree to disagree. Well, then they'll just agree to send me on my way if they actually are being wise. So that is not the case. We should never do that, to create disunity that way and have doctrine like that. Now, David, this is nothing personal, so please don't take it that way. It's not a personal thing at all. And it's hard to, when you're talking about issues, to not take it personal. It's definitely not personal. David's your brother in the Lord, as you've seen him preach. God loves the Lord. I've taken my son through some of his books, so I, by definition, don't have any problems with him. And I believe that the issues, like, for example, like Calvinism, five-point Calvinist, hey, that's within the church body, but we are not a Reformed church. That's what McLean Bible Church is. So David has an ethical obligation to point that fact out for himself and to say unambiguously that, yes, I am in disagreement with church doctrine there. Which tells you, why did the elders have this conversation with him in the first place? And we are making him fit the church. And it's done out of fear and not faith. So by definition, I'm sorry, but God's not in it. Because it's not doing the unity that we're called to, a unity of mind and spirit to a local body, because it's not in agreement with our doctrine. Number one. Number two, it's a fear-based decision. There was no process to select a pool of candidates. This process started, you saw the ambiguity in the messages, and you can see it clearly that that was not the case. So those are facts. I have opinions as well, so I'll let you know this is the opinion part. In my opinion, I believe Wednesday we'll see the largest swearing in of new members. Well, why? Well, because David was brought in at the beginning, hired part-time, but the whole intention was to bring him on full-time from the beginning. That was done shrewdly to create a fan base, and I just think that's inappropriate. And for us being called to vote to affirm the decision of the elders, that is manipulative language, and that is inappropriate. That is something you do. I know we're sheep, but that's a little much. We are not to vote to affirm the elders' decision. We're voting either for David Platt as the next teaching pastor or against David Platt as the next teaching pastor. So I have predictions what will happen afterwards, and I will post a video afterwards, but I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that we have the elders do their due diligence and do their duty and actually have somebody that does a real search committee. The elders took a back seat in this, and this is what I said in my letter to them, which I'll post below this video and share. So anyways, in the best way I can. If I came across in any ununifying way, I don't know how to do it. Gift of discernment is a tough one, and I'm a recovering people pleaser. I want people to like me. I'm a recovering codependent. I really want people to like me, but God chose to give this fool, this recovering codependent and people pleaser, the gift of discernment. So that's all I have for now, and I pray that you vote your conscience, and don't fanboy me either, the two of you who may be. I wrote about virtue ethics, and virtues are very important to me, and we are called to be men and women of prudence and not carelessness. God bless you guys.